Who's that? If you can hear me, let me know. Morning, good morning, good morning to everyone. To familiar faces and unfamiliar faces. I'll give you a minute to grab a belt. And I'm just going to make sure I actually silenced my phone. I silenced my phone. Okay, so good morning, everyone. Grab yourself either a yoga strap, or last night I was doing this stuff with the belt from my terry cloth bathrobe, and that was fine. I even did it with like a length of rope. So grab that. You just want something that you can get a good grip on and pull taut, and has at least like your arm's wingspan, your wingspan length to it. So you, so it could be anything at all that you're comfortable gripping and isn't too stretchy. So grab that, and we'll begin seated. So take some time to settle in. I'm going to prop myself up on a yoga block. You could prop yourself up on the edge of a pillow. And we're going to begin in a kneeling position, just so that your whole spine can move from here eventually, but also so that you can feel quite grounded through your sitting bones. So please ensure that you are propped up if you need to be propped up. And just take a moment and settle in. And feel the weight of whatever it is that's in contact with the floor. So the tops of your feet, your shins, as well as your sitting bones, those two little pointy bones in your butt. And just see if maybe one is heavier than the other. And if you can, could you bring yourself to a more even pelvic position so that you feel quite evenly rooted. So there's an even amount of weight through both of those points of reference. And then from there, could you lengthen up through your spine a little bit? I'm just going to close the window. You continue to focus. Somebody decided to vacuum outside. Okay, so lengthening up through your spine. And as much as you're aware of the roots and the connection downwards, begin to find length upwards from those roots. So a sense of rising up from your roots. Notice how as you lift up through the top of your head, you might begin to feel a lifting away of your rib cage from your spine, and could you instead let it be heavy so that the two lowest front rib bones aren't scissoring away. And begin to notice your breath, and could you now begin to breathe in and out through your nose if that's possible. And with this sense of lengthening, can you also begin to expand? So expanding with the breath 360 degrees into the side, the back, and the front body. Feeling movement in your ribcage, movement in your belly, movement in your back body. I tend to get quite tight in my low back, especially in the morning, and I really try and send my breath there. It helps. So rooting down and lifting up and breathing without too much effort, just a natural rhythm of breath, just expansive breath. And then from there, we'll take our hands to just cross in front of us and grab gently on our shoulders. Drop your chin to your chest. Take your chin over to the left. Circle your head up and over to the right. Let your chin fall and let your ear drop back, and then let your chin fall. And then scrape around to the center of your sternum. take it over to the right. So the hands here are reminding the shoulders to stay heavy. We're gonna rotate right, fold our ears over our right shoulder, left shoulder's not gonna chase. We're gonna rotate across the ceiling, look left, drop the left ear, and then drop the chin to the collarbone and come back to center. Let's do that one more time in each direction. Go as slowly as you can. Remember that we don't want this to be any sort of a pinching sensation. There might be sounds, but we don't want to move into the range that is painful. Uncomfortable, yes. Painful, no. Last time, second direction. And then back to center. And then let's just open up the grip a little bit. So now I'm grabbing my forearms, my elbows, and kind of pulling them apart just to create a little bit of tension. And as well, wake up these muscles here underneath the armpits. So continue to pull them apart, give them a little bit of a grip. Maybe like if 10 were you trying to rip your arms off, then we're looking at 2 or 3 tops. And we're gonna elevate our shoulder blades, protract our shoulder blades forward, drive our shoulder blades down into depression, and then retract them together. This is the tough one in this position. And then elevate up, we're gonna go in the same direction. Protract them forward, drive them down, retract them together. Your arms should be coming closer to you, your spine is not moving. One more time in that same direction, up, forward, down, and back. And then we'll keep them together, drive them down, slide them forward into protraction, elevate them up, and then retract them back 2 more times like that. Down, forward. So try not to skip any of these directions. Try and make this sort of a sense of a circle more than a jangly square. Last one, and notice whether or not your head wants to steal this movement or your spine wants to steal this movement. Keep that sense of pulling on the hands. And then release, give them a little shake out. One is going up while the other one's going forward, and then switch. So I'm rolling the left forward as the right goes back, and then I'm rolling the right forward as the left goes back. Let's try that again. The right goes back, the left goes forward. And these are just the shoulder blades. My arms are heavy, yeah? You might notice a little bit of movement in your spine, that's okay. Okay, and then from there, now we're gonna focus on the spine. So I'm gonna re-grip, maybe you recross your arms, it might feel foreign. That way you know you've chosen a different position. And we're gonna roll our neck into flexion and just a little bit of our upper back. Now, the trick here is to try and stay a little more stable through the mid and lower spine. So I wanna think about pulling my elbows to my waistline. And then I'm gonna rotate left and do the same thing I did with my head. Tip back, open up across the ceiling, tip back, and then rotate right. Bring it to center. So I realize that I'm flipped. Instagram is mirroring my image. So you just make sure you're going in one direction and then reversing out in the other direction. Let's do 2 more times. So I'm thinking that I'm like opening up over a ledge or a big ball. It's not a huge spinal movement. And I'm trying to avoid any kind of movement in my lower back or my pelvis. I think we've got one more time here. You may want to lift up just to find a little length and reset. So draw the elbows down, roll forward slightly. And let's go one more time. Keep the breath moving. What we're doing here is we're moving the spine in flexion, extension, rotation, side flexion, all the ways, but specifically kind of from the rib cage up. Okay, let's release that and let's take a hold of our belt. So with a good strong grip on your belt, I'm gonna say wider, much wider than your shoulders, probably at least the length of one of your arms, at least to begin. Just begin to grip and rip on the belt, and then notice what's happening in your wrists. Are you bending your wrists, bending your knuckles down like you're revving a motorcycle, Or are you wrinkling your wrist up, like you're going so that you're going into extension? Could you instead keep your wrist neutral as you grip? And then from there, just kind of pull the hands apart so that your wrists, your knuckles move away from each other and then a bit towards each other without bending the elbows. So just kind of moving around a little bit. So let's do that again. Up, down, out, and in. Up, down, out, and in. And now find center. So none of those directions. Instead, a nice centrated wrist, nice and neutral. We're going to keep that grip, plant that belt on our thighs, and as you push down into the belt, just to make contact, just for a reference point, feel your shoulders drop away from your ears. Now, as you begin to lift the belt up and over, it's okay for your shoulder blades to lift up towards your ears. Just notice if you could maybe swallow your neck less. Can you reach up through your ears? Now, I took too narrow a grip, so I'm going to open it up. I'm going to take that all the way back, and I do my best not to move around in those wrists. Oh yeah, pop, pop. And then up, let the shoulder blades drift up and over. Let's do that 2 or 3 more times. There's going to be a very sticky spot here where your wrists are going to want to do the work, where maybe your elbows are going to want to bend. We're trying to keep the spine from contorting. Trying to keep that tall, neutral spine, trying to keep the breath nice and full. And we're trying to just allow this to be movement in the shoulders themselves and a little bit in the shoulder blades. One more time, simple like this. Up and over. Keep pulling it apart. Up and over. Okay, now let's just leave that belt in front of us, and from there come on up to a high kneeling position, and then take your right leg out into a, looks like a lunge position. We're going to drive that knee forward, but keep the ankle and the heel grounded. And then come on back. Bring it down. Same thing, left side. Drive it forward. Notice that my heel is trying to leave the ground, but I'm not letting it. And then come on back up nice and tall. As you transition, try and find a little bit of hang time this time. So we're going to continue with this. See if you can make the transition a little bit slower. So we're working on the stabilizing muscles of the hip and firing up the core a little bit. Here we're working on our knee and primarily our ankle, as well as the inner thigh and some groin. A little bit of hang time, scoop it around, and then elevate and bring it out. Take a moment or two, driving that knee forward, feeling the stretch there, working into that, that range of dorsiflexion in your ankle. So this would be, all the joints and the tissues that you would use for squatting or lunging or running. Maybe one more time. I forgot to take hang time. But I did find my block. And notice whether or not you're focusing so much that your breath has maybe halted and you're holding it. Or are you able to continue to breathe that nice, round, smooth breath? Okay, the next time you take one out, then let's just leave it out. I'm going to take my right arm out to the side. We just take the opposite arm out to the side, just because the whole mirroring business. I'm going to find a little bit of containment through the center line of the body, and then sweep that externally rotated arm over to this thigh. I'm going to try and scrape my face with my bicep and reach up through that arm. Try and find as much length from my armpit to my elbow, from my elbow to my wrist, even to my pinky. And then same thing all the way down the chain, from my armpit to my hip. And I'm trying not to dump into that hip. Think about the work we did to stay nice and strong in that hip earlier. Drive down through my knee, reach up even more. And then I'm going to start to take that arm back behind me. And then when I reach that sticky spot that I found with the belt, I need to rotate to turn the thumb down and the palm up. Trying to kind of hide that arm behind my back. Now, is your shoulder blade creeping up? Is your head doing any kind of weird stuff? And then elevate in that shoulder extension, reaching your arm further away from you and further towards the ceiling. When you reach the point where your shoulder blade wants to hike up, instead rotate right from the top of the arm and bring that arm forward. So that was one real slow. Let's see if we can find that same shoulder car, but a little bit smoother, a little bit more connected, but the same amount of control through range. High five the ceiling, keep your shoulder away from your ear, and scrape your face. Maybe one more time. If you slept funny, these will feel good, hopefully. Notice if your rib cage wants to chase that arm, if your head wants to chase that arm. Okay, and then let's transition out of there. Same thing, second side. Twirl that arm right from the shoulder capsule, open into external rotation, scrape it across you into adduction, and then scrape it up and back. Pause, create some space between your ear and your shoulder. Notice whether or not your ribs are popping out. Find that length, drive down to your knee, down through your knee, reach up through your pinky. Find your breath there. And then slowly take that arm back and begin to spiral into internal rotation. Hide the arm behind you as you reach for the floor, and then reach for the ceiling with the open palm. Hide that arm. Don't let the torso contort or chase. When you reach your sticking point, now we need external rotation to bring it up and over across our face. Let's do that 2 more times, nice and slow. Maybe a little faster than we did before, but nice and controlled. Noticing if we're compensating anywhere through the rest of the body, we just want the movement to be in the shoulder itself. Last one. Try and make it feel juicy. Again, if there's any pinching, just make it a little smaller, a little softer. Good. Okay, from there, we're going to come to that left, that first side, out into a kickstand. And I'm going to take a hold of my belt and pull it nice and tight. I'm going to rotate over that front thigh and then come back out. So I'm going to let the pulling of my arm draw me into some rotation in my spine. But I'm trying to stay pretty stable through my base. The next time that belt brings me over that front thigh, I'm going to open and come all the way over. So I'm reaching my spine away from my grounding feet. And then come back up. Find that same rotational point that I stopped at and come out. Let's try that again. Rotate, sweep and open. Allow for that extension in your spine, and then find the length through your side body. Drive down through your feet and reach through those pulling arms. And then come back and forward. We'll switch. Same thing. So first, just finding the extent of rotation that feels okay for you. I'm trying to keep my pelvis pretty stable and have this just be from pretty much the navel up. My right arm, my back arm, is pulling me into that rotation. And I want my head to follow the movement of my arms. The next time I'm back there, I'm going to scrape my face with that top arm. Allow that pulling to continue to bring me up into extension, and then pull me away from my grounding hips, my grounding feet. And then arc back up and into that tall spine in rotation and come out of it. A couple more like that. Rotate, open, arc, reach, find your length. If you're slow and intentional with this stuff, you might begin to feel it as a bit of a core strengthener. as well as a feeling of really connecting your arms to the midsection, to that trunk. That pulling is happening from much further down than just the grip, right? Good. And then reverse out of there. And we'll come down, leave the belt at the ready. Shift yourself onto your bum, take your hands back behind you. Bring your feet out nice and wide. And then allow your knees to drop from side to side. Bring a little bit of effort and energy into your feet so that as you roll through this windshield wiper, you're moving onto the outer and inner edges of your feet, not mushing your ankles. See if you can do this while remaining nice and tall through your spine and continuing that breath. The next time you're open, stay open with both knees reaching away from each other and drive the heels of your feet down as you spread the toes of both feet up towards the ceiling. So you're in that extension in your ankles. You're driving down to your heels, and then you're going to start to pull those heels towards your butt without actually moving them. So you're going to start to feel some things in the back of your leg. Wake up. And then we're going to point our toes and drive those feet down into the ground. And then we're going to take the toes to the left, back up to the ceiling, and over to the right. So we're going to try and leave the heels on the ground now as you circle your ankles. So that effort of driving down through your heels, pulling towards you, just brings a little bit more tension, a little bit more work into a regular ankle circle. Reverse directions. It's as if you're trying to push your toes through a hole in the floor as you go into that plantar flexion, that point position. And because you're driving down through your heels, maybe you're noticing how much work it is to keep your knees out of this and to just have this be about the ankles. Okay, let's pick them up, shake them out. And then the next time you take your feet down, bring yourself into more of a closed angle. So I'm in more of a shin box, not in 90-90. So my front foot is on my back thigh, and my back foot is just trailing behind me in a place where I feel pretty comfortable in this back hip. If I need to kick off to the back because I'm feeling a pinch, that's fine too. Let's sweep that arm across and open up here. Try that a couple times. Sweep and reach. Find as much length as you press down to that back leg as you start to recruit your glutes and some of those tissues you found on the back of your thighs, and press into that back arm. Find length through your spine. Maybe even spiral to look back behind you. One more time like that. And then this time, as you reach, you're going to push into your shins, push into the back arm and lift up. Point those back toes so you get something to push against the tops of the feet, and then bring yourself down. Take it over to the other side. See if you can do that without hands. If you need the hands, that's fine. Tuck the front foot into the back thigh, point the back toes, take that top arm out, and sweep it around. Just following it with your torso, like we've been doing the whole time. Find a little more spiral through the spine, a little more stability through the pelvis. Reach with that arm, reach with the top of your ears. And then the next time, press down into the feet, press down into the shins, press down into that back hand, lift and arc up. Driving through that back hip, bringing it forward so you feel a nice line of extension from the hip all the way to the pinky. And then back down. Let's take this over to the other side and go right into that hip extension. And sweep it over. If you need your hands, you just let your hands walk you over. One more time to the left. or to your first side. Reach through your roots and your tips. And then the next time you come through center, cross your feet, take your hands down, tuck your toes. So it looks like this. We'll just take our hands to our thighs and find a little bit of spinal flexion here, like a baby cat, and then a baby cow. So allowing your pelvis to tuck and round as you reach your heart back to the wall behind you, softening the rib cage in, and then lifting up through your sternum, allowing your pelvis to anteriorly, I can't say that word, anterior, tilt forward. I feel like Daffy Duck or something. So moving through cat and cow. And then can you add the arms back in? Sweep the backs of your hands forward and then pull your arms out and then move into your back bend. Dive forward with the backs of those hands and then open them up and roll them open towards the ceiling in the back of the room as you move into extension. A few more times like that. And as you do this, notice whether or not you're getting a sensation of dumping into the low back, and instead, could you drive down to lift up? So you're not just feeling like you're long through the front body as you go into a back bend, but find that sense of lengthening and spreading the work through the whole spine. Last one. Toes must be yelling at you. And then from there, take your hands down to the floor. Lift your hips, pedal out your feet. Downward dog. You can bend your knees as you settle back with your sitting bones. Push into your hands. Find your breath here. Maybe find a little bit of movement through your shoulder blades. Creating space for your head to fall through the arms. Maybe find a little bit of movement through your pelvis. Getting a sense of the sitting bones lifting up and reaching rather than tucking. And then walk your hands to your feet and grab your belt on the way up. From there, come to an even standing position, just feeling into the tripods of your feet. So that would be the bone at the bottom of your big toe, your pinky toe, and in the middle of your heel. Spread out through all 10 toes rather than gripping. And grab a hold of your belt. Pull your belt apart. We're going to go back to that up and over work that we did, but this time we're going to separate the arms a little bit. Maybe step your feet a bit wider than your hips width distance and bend your knees. Take your right arm forward to scrape across your body as the left arm goes back, and then your arms find their way both back behind you. We're going to take that right arm forward to reverse out of there. So we're going to continue in the same direction. Notice if there's a lot of compensation in your elbows or your wrists, and try and keep them stable and the elbows straight. Can you hear that sound that my right shoulder is making? Up and over, up and forward. Same thing other side. Left arm scrapes my face, arms come back behind me, left arm reaches forward and scrapes to return. Two more, just the shoulders getting lots and lots of attention. Can you keep pulling on the belt, creating that drive, that tension through the arms? Good. Now, let's bring the spine into it. When the right arm goes forward and up and over, we're going to allow that left arm to come up and over to carry us out. So we're going in the same direction now. We're putting it back together, the pieces of that spinal movement, that shoulder movement, bringing the gaze with us. Let's reverse. The The left arm's gonna scrape across my face. I'm gonna open into a little bit of a back bend. I'm squeezing a little bit through my glutes. Then the right arm carries me out. Continue in the same direction. Trying to stay stable through the pelvis. A little bit of gripping the floor with those feet can help, sort of driving the feet apart like you're trying to rip the mat just a little bit. Good. Now the next time your arms are up and over in one direction, can you load that foot and float the opposite foot away? Reach with that belt. Reach with the floating leg. And then bend your knees to sort of absorb that impact and take it over the other side. So if you want to narrow up your grip, that's fine too. Continue to rip and pull with that belt as much as you're reaching with that floating leg. Come back through center and absorb. Push the belt away from you. Reach as if somebody's pulling on that floating leg. Absorb. The next time you come down and bend your knees, bend your elbows. Press away. Find your balance. See if you're adding any sense of a back bend to your spine, and instead, can you think one long line? And then return to center, bend your elbows, pulling on the belt. Press, and come on back. Woo! Okay, I found my edge. It's a good thing. Oh, I sound like Martha Stewart. It's a good thing. Bend elbows, bend knees, spring up, and over to the side. Bend elbows, bend knees, turning into a little bit more of a squat, right? Over to the side. A couple more times like this. Try and keep your chest up as you load your spring. And then find that little bit of hang time. Yeah, okay. How about one more? Really find that tipping point and then recoil and spring away. Okay, let's come back to center. Let's lose the belt. And from there, I'm just gonna come to the top of my mat. You do the same. Orient yourself on both feet into those tripods. Find that nice 360-degree even breath in and out through the nostrils. And then from there, sweep your arms up. Exhale, fold forward over your legs. Hang over those legs for a moment. Let your head be super heavy. And then roll yourself all the way up through your spine. Drive down through your feet, just coming up to a neutral spine, not a back bend. Inhaling and stretching for the ceiling. Exhaling and folding. Inhale, come halfway up. Exhale, fold. Once again, roll up. Segmentally return to a tall standing. Last time like this. Exhale, fold. Inhale, roll up. Let the arms continue as you come up nice and tall. Find your inhale here, and then this time when you exhale, fold all the way down. Come on up halfway. Plant both hands. Step your left foot back, step your right foot back. Coming down to your knees if you need to. We're going to push into the floor. Find that protraction. Maybe you're in a plank, maybe you're on your knees. But we're all going to find a sense of pulling hands to toes, toes to hands. Hold that position. A little bit more protraction through the shoulders, a little bit more reach through the tail, a little bit more reach through the ears. Can you feel your fingertips gripping into the mat? Hold that for another 2 to 3 breaths. And then bring your knees down. Begin to pull yourself all the way to your belly. Find your belt. Perhaps you're more well situated than I am. So I'm going to turn to face you. Hopefully this makes sense on your screen. From your belly, we're going to work those shoulders, work the back, work up pulling muscles, which we don't often attend to in our yoga practice. Again, remember to keep those elbows straight and those wrists neutral. Drive down through the tops of your feet. Find a sense of length through your low back. Just enough space between your face and your nose to drive a couple sheets of paper. We're not in a back bend. Find your breath here. And then with your hands a bit wider than your shoulders, you're in a big Y, float your arms up. Now, as you do that, you might begin to feel some stuff on the back line of the body. Can you drive down through your feet a little bit more? Can you activate your tush just a little bit more? And can you get a sense of getting a little bit lighter through the abdominals and heavier through the pubic bone? One more cycle of breath here. And then we're going to push down into the ground and lift the legs. Lift through the entire length of your legs. Point through those toes, activate those glutes. And then reverse, tops of the feet, the thighs pressing into the floor, the pubic bone pretty heavy. Lift your arms. Keep reaching through your knuckles. And then drive down through your knuckles, lift your legs. So we're strengthening the back line of the body. Let's do this 2 more times on both ends. Avoiding any sense of dumping or compressing in the low back by keeping the engagement of the abdominals and that sense of length through the whole spine. Continue to breathe. See if you can float your arms up any more. And then drive those arms down. See if you can float your legs up anymore without losing the connection of the pubic bone and those 2 front hip bones. Good. And then let's just take a second, push our hands into the floor and sit back into a child's pose. Keep your arms forward. Walk those hands now over to the right as you send your hips to the left. Breathe into that opening between armpit and hip. Keep your hands forward, take your hips to the right and your arms to the left. Breathe into the bowing of the side of your body. And then coming back, we'll come to all fours for a beat. And you move through your cat and cow, how it feels good for you. Could be slow and segmental, like this. Or it might be a little bit more traditional, just really pushing. You might like to move the shoulder blades, you might like to use the elbows. Just get a little bit more global movement through the spine. Kind of loosening things up before we return to our bellies. So from that, just keep your belt by your side from that all fours position. Push the floor away from you, tuck your toes. This time you're gonna pull your hands to your toes to your hands, and hold your table. So we're lighting everything up, we're finding support, you hold it. You're trying to find support from all sides of that spine. There's no caving in anywhere. There's lots of pushing in those shoulders. Finding that active protraction, pulling in the hands towards the toes towards the hands. And then we're gonna lift our hips and come back to a downward dog. Find your breath here. And then walk yourself forward, taking as many steps as you need to come back to your hands, fold over your legs. And then take a long spine all the way up. Fold again. Come on up halfway. Plant your hands, step back. And pull yourself all the way down to the ground. Find your belt. Same thing as before, but we change it up just a little bit. So I'm going to find that same action of connection from my ribcage to my pelvis. Lots of anchoring down through the front line of the body as well as activating through the back. Float those arms in that Y. Keep the tops of the feet reaching into the ground. And then I'm gonna pull my elbows back behind my ears. And then stretch my arms forward. Press my hands down float my legs, and then bend my knees. Reverse. Press into the feet, float the arms, bend the elbows, and pull. Rip it apart. Try and keep your wrists nice and neutral. And then extend your arms, press down, float your legs, bend your knees. You can point or flex, whatever feels good for you. I want you to feel the pubic bone remaining heavy. I want you to feel the glutes and the hamstrings activate here. And then straighten the legs, press them down, float the arms, bend the elbows, pull. Keep ripping the belts apart. Stretch your arms forward. Let's do what? What do you say? 2 more times? Bend and pull. Hold that position. Keep your pubic bone heavy. Keep the hips on the ground. Straighten your legs. Press into them. Float your arms. Pull the band apart. Keep it up. I want to see if anybody has any questions about this. Maybe it's new. Hi, Christine. Feeling it in the back of the body? Okay, from that prone position, on your belly, finish your last rep. Maybe I should turn like this. And we'll leave the band to the side. Take your hands back beside you. We're going to set ourselves up for a nice active cobra or upward dog. Slide your shoulder blades away from your ears, settle them onto your back, float your hands, lift through your chest, but same thing. Find that length through the low back here, the activation through the front and the back line of the body. And then begin to pull yourself through your arms. Maybe you're in an upward dog, maybe the thighs are heavy, you're bending the elbows, maybe you're in a cobra. Look over your left shoulder, look over your right shoulder. Push the floor away from you, come into your downward dog. Once again, feel into your downward dog and see if it feels any different. Are you feeling any more connection of those arms into the mid-back? Do you feel any more or less stable and strong here? Can you find any movement of your pelvis, maybe bending the knees to facilitate that? The shoulder blades. And then settle in and find another couple rounds of breath. Looking forward, take as many steps as you need to step the right foot and step the left foot. Fold over your legs. Come on up halfway so you're in your chair. Stretch the arms up and feel how much lighter they may or may not feel now that you've done all that work. I want you to feel like your arms start at your waist, because they kind of do. Reach your ears back to the wall behind you. Reach your arms up more as you drop your hips down. Hold your chair for another 2 or 3 breaths. Notice whether or not you're bellowing in the ribs, and could you instead keep your rib cage heavier, a little bit softer. One more breath. And then we'll stand up and fold. Inhale, come on, halfway up. Exhale, plant your hands, step back. Bring yourself down however it works for you. Pull yourself through into whatever version of a back bend works for you. And we'll meet in a downward dog. Looking forward, step the right foot forward. Okay, I'm going to step my left foot forward because I want you to see from the front line of the body. Then we're going to open into our warrior two. Similar to the work we were doing before in that half kneeling position. Float your arms. Notice how they feel. Do they feel as if they're suspended from strings or maybe supported from pillars? Can you roll them open into any more external rotation? And can you find a little bit more internal rotation? So just move between those two actions for a brief minute while we ignore the sensations in our legs. Holding your warrior two. And then let's pick whichever position works for you. I like internal rotation. I like palms up. And we're going to slide back over the back leg and find a reverse warrior. And then drive the floor away from you. Straight arms, straight legs. And then bent arm, bent leg. Straight arm, straight leg. Bent arm, bent leg. Again. Could be both arms. Just get that sense of pulling back in. And then the next time your knee is bent, let's just move into a side angle. Drive through the back foot. Take that top arm around and see if you could perhaps find somewhere on the side of your waist, or even floating in a little bit more active work in the back line of the body. Do you need that bottom arm? Or are you able to find the intrinsic support here of your core muscles? Can you keep that sense of spiraling the knee out? And then straighten the leg, and we'll come into a triangle. Same thing. Do you need that bottom arm for support? Or can you find that sense of length through both sides of the waist and action and activity of support from the obliques? And then let's come forward, bending the front knee, step the back foot a little bit more, and move into a half moon of your choice. Maybe you need a block, or you like a block. Find a stable position for a breath or two. Now feel as if, as much as you're pushing into the block and pushing into the foot, can you reach through the floating arm and leg? Similar to what we were doing with the band earlier in our practice. And then could you perhaps come onto the fingertips? Ooh, maybe I can't, that's okay. Or maybe lose that hand entirely. Whoa! And then come down into your warrior two. And sweep both arms forward. We'll come back to a downward dog. Find your breath. Step the right leg forward. So I'm just going to turn. You're going to stay in your position. We're in our warrior two. Find your breath and once again rotate a few times, just sort of flossing around in those shoulders. And then find a nice sense of support from below the arms, below the shoulders. Take your torso up and back into a reverse warrior. Reach the knee forward as much as you're driving down into the back edge of the foot. Find more length on the top side of your body. And then bend knee, bend elbow. Straighten knee, straighten elbow. Bend and straighten. Bend and straighten. 2 more times. The next time you bend, hinge forward, move into your side angle. Maybe offload that arm. Put the load in the core. Maybe sweep that arm around. See what you can take a hold of. Push into that front leg. Find your triangle. Any version. This is quite a lot of load with the arms overhead, but if you feel that there's no compensation, no discomfort, maybe challenge, that's fine. Well, discomfort's fine too, actually, no pain. Find your breath. Can you breathe here? Can you live here? Can you sit in the discomfort? And then looking forward, whoops, I don't have my block. Moving the back leg forward enough to offload. Find your half moon. I'm gonna make another attempt. Can you find that sense of reaching out from center through all limbs? the connection back into center. So much so that you can get lighter on the bottom arm, maybe catching some air, and then come on back. From there, cartwheel your arms, plant your hands, step back into your downward dog. Bring yourself forward through plank, lower, one more time, find your back bend. Look over your left shoulder, and this time press into your right foot just a little bit more. Look over your left shoulder, press into your left foot a little bit more. Come down onto the floor. Reach that right arm up, the left leg up. Reach the left leg up, the left arm up, the right leg up. Can we keep the trunk heavy but active? Can we reach through our tail, reach through our crown? Feel more length here. One more time on each side. Pause with all four limbs connected to the floor. Pulling hands to toes, toes to hands. Lift your chest, draw your elbows down, pull that invisible belt to you. And then begin to bend your knees, stretch your arms back. See if you can just make contact here. Hold that position without feeling like you're sacrificing any length through the center line of the body. Actively use the back line. And then return back to your belly. Rest for a moment and windshield your legs. Windshield wiper your legs. Let's do that again. And this time, if you'd like to, maybe let's start by just planting opposite arm and opposite hand. Push down into the opposite limbs that are on the floor. Pull that foot towards you using your hamstrings. Stay heavy through your pubic bone, both heads of the hips. And then see if you can just float the arm and the leg, kind of holding that passive range. And then release. Float the left arm up, the right leg up. Sweep it around. Make contact at first. Find your passive range. And then start to activate in that range so that you could perhaps hold it while letting go. And release. Lift up through your chest, bend your elbows back, pull, pull, pull. Lift through the front of your torso, but stay grounded through your ribs, grounded through your pubic bone. And then extend your elbows, bend your knees, see what you've got a hold of. Now, you could stay here and just really activate and release and work it from a more active angle, or we could be a little bit more traditional. But keep that same intention of pushing into the hands as you pull with the arms. Keep your shoulder heads reaching forward, beginning to lift through your upper ribs. Keep those lower ribs heavy. Can you still feel work in the back line of the body? And then release. Push the floor away from you, move into maybe a child's pose, or you can stay on your belly and windshield wiper your legs first. Take a few breaths here in your child's pose or on your belly. Then when you feel like your low back has released a little bit, from either your belly or your child's pose, we're going to sweep our legs around. Come to the top of your mat and clasp your shins. Float your legs and roll into the teeniest little bowl. Begin to rock back to your shoulders and then come back up to your sitting bones. Toes can touch, that's fine. Just keep as much of that contraction through the front line as possible. so that you're rolling on as much of your spine as possible. You don't want to feel any air gaps. Just squeeze your legs together to activate this a little bit more. Clasp anywhere on your legs. Keep your shoulders rounded forward, your shoulder blades rounded forward for a more workable surface. Try not to dump into your neck. Keep that chin tucked. The next time your legs go back, you're going to release the hands and slap the floor and come on back up. Slap the floor, legs find a little air time and come on back up. Legs backing up, come on back up. Slap the floor, legs up and over, roll back up. One more time like that. Just sort of catching yourself midair. And then staying up, we'll lower all the way down onto our back. You may want to stay in a little bit of a happy baby pose, rocking from side to side. Maybe you feel like taking a version of a twist. And that's what I feel like doing. You do what works for you, what feels like the next best thing in your practice. Maybe it's a little bit more dynamic. Maybe you're moving from side to side, kind of like the windshield wipers we did earlier. Take the time to unwind, to feel your heart rate get slower. Maybe you'd like to send your legs up and give them a nice shake. Arms as well. Flick out the wrists and the fingers. These are all suggestions and they all make sense. There's about 1 million different things you could do next, as long as it feels like the next best thing. As it feels like it's moving you towards a more settled state. You want to feel like you can settle into the weight of your body eventually and take time to rest. Maybe legs up somewhere on the wall or the sofa, or maybe right here in more of a corpse position. So eventually finding your way to a resting pose, tuning back into your breath, winding things down, making sure things are smooth and steady, and there's no sense of effort or contraction anywhere from the tips of your toes to the tops of your ears and even your eyebrows. Take the time to feel your breath once again, 360 degrees in the torso, just expanding and softening, expanding and softening. I'm going to leave you now. I hope this felt like a little bit of a challenge. I hope it felt a little bit fun, and I hope to see you again on your mat. Take care of yourself, take care of others. Be kind to everyone you meet today. We are all a little bit wounded these days. So it begins here, but it doesn't end here.